Coming up here on NFL Daily, the latest news and rumors. We're going to talk about Stephon Gilmore and a potential trade. Which team is connected to him? Julio Jones, could this man be on his way to the NFC North? And Larry Fitzgerald, is he going to be returning this year? We wouldn't be able to do today's show if it wasn't for our awesome sponsor, Manscaped. If any guy out there is watching the show, if any woman out there is watching the show, make sure you're hooking yourself up. 20% off at manscaped.com/chat. And you're going to be able to save 20% off on the best male grooming products on the market. Stephon Gilmore to the Seattle Seahawks. That's the first rumor we're talking about here. And I'll tell you what. Sports Illustrated went out and they wrote a fun little article and said that the Seahawks, they need to go out and pursue Gilmore in a trade. The biggest reason is because if this team considers themselves a Super Bowl contender, they still lack massive cornerback depth, which I definitely would agree with. You lost probably your two best cornerbacks last season, and now you're just trying to piece it together in the secondary. I mean, can we not forget that there was a point last year that Seattle was on pace to break the record for most passing yards given up in a single year? Luckily, their schedule got a little bit easier down the stretch, but if you believe that, hey, we are a cornerback away, or hey, we need to bolster this secondary a little bit, why not maybe go out and make a move for Stephon Gilmore, who has definitely been featured in a ton of Patriots trade rumors? Now, the other issue with that is like, all right, if you're Seattle, you already are hindered with the limited ability to be able to trade because you don't have a lot of draft capital. They already don't have a first-round pick in 2022. So if you want to give up a second-round pick for Gilmore, then you're like, all right, well, we don't have a first or second-round pick. But you've already seen, if you're willing to go out and give up 2 for Jamal Adams, why not go out and give up a lot for a guy like Gilmore, who he's better than Reed? He's better than Witherspoon, and I understand that those are moves that you already went out and made this offseason, but you need to be able to find a shutdown corner, I personally believe, in this division, especially when you're going up against Arizona, who's got DeAndre Hopkins, when you're going up against somebody like the Rams, who just got a new quarterback in Matthew Stafford. He's going to be throwing to Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, and, I'm not going to really get too crazy about the 49ers, but they have a lot of depth also at the wide receiver position. So if you're Seattle, you're like, you know what, man, we're probably one of the toughest division in the entire league, and we are chasing this ring right now. Plus, I understand that Russell doesn't play defense, or I'm talking about Russell Wilson, but this move would make him pretty happy in my personal opinion. So should Seattle go out and trade for Stephon Gilmore, I want you to type T for trade, or I want you to go ahead and type your P for pass. Now, if you are going to go ahead and type your T for trade, reminder, they do not have a first-round pick in 2022. So if you go down in the comment section right now, be creative. Maybe give me an idea of what you think it could potentially take for the Atlanta Falcons or for the Seattle Seahawks to go out and make a move for one Stephon Gilmore. And the other reason why I would say, you know what, if you can pull the trigger and make this work, I mean, it's only going to cost you $8.53 million in 2021 because New England has to pay, it's somewhere like a little bit over $7.5 million of Gilmore's contract. So the fact that they're willing to eat that amount, if you can give up a second rounder and get Gilmore, that's something I would absolutely do. And a lot of people out there are going to be like, well, Mitch, he was injured last year. I don't know if the thigh's going to be 100% healthy. If this man is 80% healthy, 90% healthy, he's still a top 10 cornerback in my personal opinion. 2019, won Defensive Player of the Year, 53 tackles, 20 pass breakups, 6 INTs. It is extremely difficult in today's league, which is so wide receiver driven. A lot of people always talk about what's the hardest position to play. Corner might be the hardest position to play because you can't put your hands on anyone. And the fact that this dude has had 20 pass breakups the past 2 seasons and has had over 9 pass breakups the last 5 years, from 2019 to 2015, that's pretty productive if you ask me. So what I want you guys to do right now is we're going to play a little bit of Madden here. Who here plays Madden? Let me know. I don't personally play. If you want to put your gamer tag in the comments, go for it. I want you to rate Gilmore as a player from a scale from 0 to 100. When fully healthy, he is a 95 and up. I mean, that's how good I still think he is. Is he getting up there in age? Absolutely. But if you're a team like Seattle chasing a ring and you have a chance to go out and get this guy, I say you go ahead and do it. If you find yourself always looking for just NFL news, NFL rumors, and if you want live and interactive shows, look no further than Chat Sports. We're going to be keeping you guys updated the entire offseason. I mean, it's already June. How crazy is that? Where the heck did May go? But if you find yourself, being like, oh, I can't stay up to date because I'm busy with my life and my job, don't worry. My job and everyone else's job here at Chat Sports is to make sure that you know exactly what's going on in the National Football League. Now, the important thing in today's show is this. Turn on your notifications, because this is the offseason where you can miss stuff. If you have no idea how to turn on your notifications, don't worry. I got your back. You got to go to your settings app on your iPhone. You can scroll down, tap YouTube, tap notifications, and then turn on allow notifications. I found out today that only 18% of the people that are subscribed to Chat Sports have all their notifications turned on. That number is way too low. So make sure you turn on your noties. And to put a little bit of a cherry on top, if you will, I'm going to give some love to the people that I know have their notifications turned on and have commented first on our past 5 videos. So shout out to Jacob Moore, Julian, Jeff, Mariners fan, I see you in the comments on our live show, and then Meet the McCains. I know y'all have your noties turned on. Make sure you guys, if you want to shout out on next week's show, turn on the noties and be the first one to comment. Julio Jones, well, that's what we're talking about here. Next up, and as the Baltimore Ravens, are they going out and getting this star wide receiver from the Atlanta Falcons? We have some conflicting reports, and that's what you're going to get in the offseason, especially around a big name like Julio. Albert Breer went on to say that the Ravens going out and trading for Julio Jones would continue a trend for them. Basically, the trend is finding an older player and their third contract, essentially, where they can get for potentially a little bit cheaper, and then trying to win now. However, ESPN's Kimberly Martin said that the Ravens, they are 100% out on Julio. She even went on to go say that I can guarantee you that the Los Angeles Rams and the Baltimore Ravens will not trade for Julio Jones. When I hear words like that, I'm like, okay, I'm at least interested. But I'm also a betting man, and I see the latest odds on Julio Jones. I'm like, wait a minute. The Baltimore Ravens, they're still right here at plus 550 odds, so something's got to give. I love Albert Breer. He does a good job, and I think a lot of the things that he says are pretty true. But then if you have another report, guess what? We don't really know what's going to happen with Julio Jones. Until it happens, we're going to try to keep you guys updated here as much as humanly possible. If he ends up going to one of these teams, if I had to bet, 49ers, I think, make the most sense because of Kyle Shanahan, or if the Packers are trying to keep Aaron Rodgers happy. But here's basically where I'm going with this. Do you think that the Baltimore Ravens should go out and trade for Julio Jones? Like, I get that they drafted Rashad Bateman. I get that they already went out and signed Sammy Watkins. And I get that they have Hollywood Brown. However, you have Lamar Jackson, and you're still trying to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs. What's been the one weakness for this offense, or at least the one kryptonite for this entire football team? It's been the Chiefs, and if they really want to be able to compete with them, maybe you go out and make a move for Julio Jones, so type Y for yes or type N for no. If I'm Baltimore, of course I'm going to try to do it, right? I'm going to try to build around Lamar Jackson even more because he has an MVP caliber type season. Had a little bit of a slump. We can all agree. They had a little bit of a slump here. You know what's the easiest way to get a guy out of a slump? You add somebody like this to your roster who had 771 yards in 9 games. That's an average of about 85 receiving yards per game. And for everyone out there, it's like, all right, this guy, he's injury prone. He never plays. I don't know what exactly you're talking about. This could be stemming from fantasy football where, sure, he's going to pop up on an injury report. He's going to be questionable. He might be a game-time decision. But you know what Julio Jones has done very well? He's played in games. He's missed only 11 games, 7 this past season, since 2014. And when he is on the field, this dude is a top 5 receiver. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to put up these type of numbers like he did in 2015, but if you tell me right now he plays over 14 games with Lamar Jackson in this offense, can somebody please tell me why you don't think he's going to have at least 80 catches, over 1,200 yards, and 6 touchdowns? Seriously, please let me know. The other reason why I would go ahead and do this, because the money-wise, it actually makes a lot of sense for a lot of teams. Now, sure, paying a receiver at this age, $15 million, you're like, oh, well. But if you can tell me that he's healthy and all the medical stuff checks out, you're going to pay Julio Jones about $12.5 million over the next 3 years? I mean, that's an absolute steal. I mean, if he doesn't get traded, he's making $22 million. But because he does get traded, Atlanta has to end up eating some of that contract. So for everyone out there, especially you Ravens fans, I'm curious what you guys have to say about this wide receiver depth chart if it were to have Julio Jones. So you'd have Julio as your number 1. You'd have Hollywood Brown as your number 2. Sammy Watkins as 3. Maybe Rashad Bateman at 4. All I'm saying is this. Good luck trying to defend that. And the guy that's also not even on screen right now, Mark Andrews. Like, Mark Andrews is another very solid red zone option, especially at the tight end position. And this team still might be run first with J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jackson. If you are really trying to compete with teams like the Chiefs, and you're trying to take that next step, and arguably the best division in the entire AFC, I mean, the AFC North is legit. Browns, Steelers, Ravens, all playoff caliber teams. Sorry, Bengals. Maybe you go out, maybe you make a big splash and get a guy like Julio Jones. Now, I wouldn't be able to make this show, wouldn't be able to make it happen if it wasn't for our awesome sponsor, Manscaped. Head on over to manscaped.com/chat. If you can't remember that link, it's also right below me. If you're trying to get belowed, then you can go get this awesome Lawnmower 4.0. We do what we can here around here. Use code chat at manscaped.com/chat. The reason why this is the best male grooming product on the market, there's literally no tug to it whatsoever. It's kind of difficult to see, but I'm going to try to point to it. Sam, go to the next graphic. You can kind of see the battery life here, right? That basically tells you how much battery life you have. So it works in 3 prongs. So you have 99%, 66%, 33%. How many people out there, and you can be honest with me, when shaving, the battery runs out? Dude, it is like the worst feeling in the world. I've actually had it happen to me before where I had half of my face shaved and then the thing died on me. If this thing dies on you, that is a you problem. It's you not looking and it's you not charging it. Plus, one of the coolest things about it, it actually doesn't even need a cord to charge. So there's a chargeable port, and if you put it on, it's kind of like these new iPhone chargers. Well, you just stick it on top. It'll charge this bad boy. It lasts about 90 minutes, doesn't vibrate a lot, and with our offer, you can save, well, you guys do the math there, usually $89.99 down to $71.99 at manscaped.com/chat. Is Larry Fitzgerald returning? Well, that still remains to be seen. Bleacher Report wrote an article about one move every NFL team should make. Now, this isn't really much of a move. It's more of a decision on what Arizona is going to do with their star wide receiver. And basically, they need to figure out whether or not he is going to be returning this upcoming season. He's 37 years old. He's still considering retirement and whether or not he wants to come back for yet another season. Arizona's made it pretty obvious that, hey, Fitz, if you want to play, we're going to pay you, and you're going to come back here because not only are you a great fit in this locker room, he still can kind of get it done, right? I mean, last season in 2020, 54 catches, 409 yards, a touchdown, and you could definitely see he's starting to slow up a little bit, right? However, they have made some pretty interesting moves this offseason in terms of going out and signing A.J. Green, and if A.J. Green's fully healthy, he'll be better than Larry Fitzgerald. You also went out and drafted Rondale Moore out of Purdue, who a little bit of a small receiver, but is a good fit. I mean, you also can't forget about Christian Kirk, Andy Isabella. I mean, this has been a good football team in terms of being able to move the football, and I'll tip my cap to Cliff Kingsbury really being able to build around Kyler Murray and making sure that he has as many weapons as humanly possible. But if I'm DeAndre Hopkins, if I'm A.J. Green, if I'm Moore, I'm like, you know what? I can't imagine any of those dudes right now sitting here saying, I don't want Larry Fitzgerald back. So if he wants to come back, I'm a believer that he can. So is it time, though? Because Father Time always wins. And if I'm an NFL athlete, if I'm a player in any sport, there has to come a time where you're like, man, I just don't do it up to the level that I would like to be able to play anymore, right? Like, when I think of Larry Fitzgerald, I think of one of the best receivers that I've ever personally seen, like, growing up. He's not that anymore, and I would imagine from a competitor standpoint, there comes that time where you're like, man, the practices are getting longer, things are just starting to flare up on me, these injuries, and I just can't get it done to the level I used to be at. So type R for retire, type C for comeback. Let me know what y'all think Larry Fitzgerald should do. But in the 13 games he was able to lace up the cleats last season, he was targeted 72 times, had 54 catches, always the best hands in the league, 409 yards, 1 touchdown. But when you look at over the last 5 seasons, at least from 2019 to 2015, I mean, you could kind of see the descent start to happen. Now, 2017, a phenomenal year, right? Over 109 catches. 69 catches in 2018, nice. 2019, 75. And now, basically, you're going back to one of the lowest catches seasons of his entire career. I mean, you can't doubt this. He's had a phenomenal career, which is where I'm going to go with this next question here. And I want you to be honest, speak your mind. If you think Fitzgerald is a top 10 receiver of all time, I want you to go ahead and like this video right now. When I really wrap my mind around statistics, when I wrap my mind around what top 10 at the wide receiver position means, Do you think of Larry Fitzgerald? I mean, there's been a lot of players. The reason why he might fit into the top 10 and he might fit into the top 5 even is just from his longevity alone. I mean, you really can't argue with some of these career numbers because they are just mind-blowing to look at. And 263 career games, 432 catches, 17,492 yards, 121 touchdowns. From a talent standpoint alone, he might not have the talent of a top 10 receiver, but if you are talking about longevity, I think he deserves to be in there because last time I checked, being second in the NFL in receiving yards, that has to go somewhere. And that's exactly where he is. 17,492, ranks only behind Jerry Rice, who's just blowing everybody out of the water. It's why he's considered the GOAT at 22,895 yards. So if y'all think that Larry Fitzgerald is a top 10 receiver of all time, I do want you to go ahead and like the video. I personally would like to see him lace it up again just because he's one of those dudes that I just grew up watching and you always can respect his game. But if Larry Fitzgerald does want to come back, let's get it straight. The Cardinals would welcome him with open arms.